Hey, you know cuz? There's a lot not working right now, okay? I'm moving around. Things ain't flowing how they should, but we are here. Welcome back to the CarQuicks podcast, episode 113, okay? Season 3 is coming to a close, if you didn't know, because we are coming to an end. Because it's coming to the end of the year, December 2025, we're coming into the new year. But we are back for another episode of the CarQuicks podcast, a special episode, one that I was just almost a kind of live streaming, if you caught it. But how are y'all doing out there? How's your family, your friends, your loved ones, your children? How are things going for you? Hope the season has been well for you. Hope things have been going as it should. If they're not, that you know your prayers are being answered, that you're being helped, that you are with the right people that you call your friends and your family. So I hope all those things are going well. But we have some car news to talk about today, or tonight, or this morning, whenever you're listening to me. And if you don't know, just to remind you, there's a video format of this, and you want to go check it out. Okay, you want to go and do it so that you can see the visual footage that I put on here, so that you can hear it nice and clear. So my last episode, funny thing, I like critiquing. I listened to my podcast episode back multiple times. Like, I'll listen to it when I'm driving to work. I'll listen to it when I'm hanging out. I'll listen to it when I'm just sitting on the couch. Just anywhere I go, I'm going to listen to my podcast so that I can hear my episode back, so I can hear where I need to improve. And I can tell when I do an episode when my energy is low. I could tell when I do an episode, I'm like, I know I did that when I was tired. Not that it's not late right now, but I'm good. I have good energy. I'm enunciating clear. Diaphragm, breathing, all those type of things matter when you're broadcasting. I want to have a clear, concise podcast audio experience. So hopefully I've been delivering that to you all these episodes up to 113. And if I haven't, guess what? We got another 100 to improve upon. And then after that, if it still ain't good enough, we got another 100 to improve upon. And if it still ain't good, we got another 100 to improve upon. So guess what? Stick around. We're going to be doing this for a long time. Let's get into what we're here to talk about. We're driving straight into the big news, Gazoo Racing. Okay? No, I got the hat on. I'm repping tonight. Okay? Gazoo Racing's on the head. No, I'm not talking about the GR Corolla, even though that is always a good topic to talk about because that's the car that I own and I love it. And it comes from the same people who did the vehicle that we are going to talk about right now. And that is this right here, the GR GT. Let's just backtrack a bit in case you don't know and you've been living under a rock or under a transmission. Car reference. This is the culmination of Toyota learning from the LFA development, learning from other Gazoo racing vehicles, just improving upon their prowess in the sports car development world, right? They are making sure that they're not just known for Priuses and Camrys and Siennas. From what I can tell, Akio Toyoda, the CEO of Toyota, does not want this company to go down in history as somebody that was not a premier inside of the sports car category. The famous cars that we know from Toyota, the 2000 GTs, the Celicas, the Supras, he wants to make sure that that lineage continues. And if there is something to say, Toyota's ending, I'm not saying they're ending. What I'm saying is wherever his run ends as CEO, he's ending it with the biggest of bangs, on the highest of notes, considering the cars that they have produced, whether it's my GR Corolla, whether it's a GR86, whether it's a Supra, whatever it may be. And I'm more referring to the more recent vehicles. I know Toyota has a long history of very amazing vehicles from the 90s and the 80s. I'm just going to stick to the current crop so that we can just kind of stay on the same timeline. So Gazoo Racing, from the GR Yaris to the GR86 to the GR Supra to the GR Corolla, has come together to essentially turn Toyota into one of the premier places to go to get a sports car. Now, obviously, you may have different opinions on this. Some people may feel like these cars aren't even that great compared to maybe what they did in the past from a more nostalgic, personal, visceral type of experience. Think like, the Celica Rally Group B type cars. But where we're at now, even with the idea of looking into the past and understanding maybe we don't have everything we had in the past, we are in one of the most golden of ages of sports cars, considering how many options there are. And I'm going to remove the price out of this because, unfortunately, price is still important, and the cost of cars has certainly gotten to a point now where you almost can't ignore the price when it comes to what you're trying to buy or what you should be enthusiastic about. But I have to not forcibly, but I have to make it a different. I have to separate myself from it because my passion for cars was never dictated by the price of it. I couldn't afford an Evo 8 in 2003, but I didn't look at it and say, "Man, I would get one if they were 15,000 and not 30." Like, I didn't. It didn't matter to me. I was like, I still love the car. No, I can't afford it. And I'm saying all that because a lot of times in this new age of these sports cars coming out, none of them are going to be cheap at all. None. Zero. Zilch. And this GR GT, you can put squarely in the category of this is going to be expensive. Let's talk about it. This is Toyota's first twin-turbo V8. Hear that out. This is Toyota's first twin-turbo V8. They have done V6s, they've done inline 4s, turbo 3s, hybrids, all types of things. This is the first time they have done a twin-turbo V8. Now, let's just talk about what's under the hood first, and we're going to talk about the exterior and all these type of things, but let's just get to the engine. Short stroke, 4-liter, twin-turbo V8 with an undisclosed amount of horsepower, but we have some speculation. Toyota said that the hybrid powertrain will have a combined output of at least 641 horsepower, 627 pound-feet of torque. Now, that number either is going to go, it's not going to go low. It's not going to go below that. I don't think that they're going to show off, say, a number of 641, and the number is going to go lower. I think the number is going to remain at 627 as far as the pound-feet of torque go, and 641 as far as the horsepower goes, if not more. I suspect we might land somewhere between 650 and 660, or they may even come back and say we're up to 670 to 700, whatever it may be. Whatever the number is that they're going to fall at, I think they're going to aim further for a higher number for the sake of this being the flagship halo. Trust and believe the GR GT is a halo vehicle for Toyota, a halo vehicle for Lexus, because we'll get to that later about who's going to sell it and what it may be, but I'm going to keep it under the company branch, umbrella of Toyota. This is a halo car. So 641 horsepower, 627 pound-feet of torque. All of this is connected to a form of an automatic transmission. So before we get ourselves in a tizzy, at no point in time was this ever going to be a manual transmission vehicle. Anybody that understood what they were building and understood what they were working towards, we never looked at this and said, this is going to be a manual transmission vehicle. We were very much aware that this was going to be an automatic dual clutch or some type of transmission just due to the nature of this type of vehicle. However, to keep things interesting, to keep things as Gazoo Racing would do, always on the performance side, always thinking about how can this transform itself into a street car and then back into a racing car. Let's talk about the whole transactional and the differential, all the things that are connecting all the power to the wheels. Power is sent through a carbon fiber drive shaft to a transaxle 8-speed automatic transmission. So you got carbon drive shaft, you got 8-speed transmission. Let me continue. I'm reading this from thedrive.com. So shout out to them. Once again, another great article by Joel Feder. Okay, I've written plenty of articles for this gentleman, but I always want to shout out the companies I pull sources from and information, so you can go check out their website. But I just want to read the paragraph they had about the transaxle because they actually broke this down the best from all the other places I was reading the information about. Between the drive shaft and the gearbox is an electric motor to act as a torque filler. So one of the things about automatic transmissions, dual clutches, that you never lose the torque, right? When you shift the gears, you hit the paddle shifters, everything is happening right away, snappy, right to the next gear, no loss in torque or the shove in your back that's pushing you forward. So they have this torque filler to replace the torque converter for smooth shifts and seamless power delivery. So normal torque converter, there's going to be delay in the power. This one keeps it all just going and going and going. It almost would probably feel like an electric engine where you just have this constant surge of torque. A battery pack rests above the transaxle to feed this electric motor. So there is an electric battery pack that's feeding this electric motor. There's a mechanical limited slip differential. So we have talked about that. And all of this is basically bunched together in the rear of the car. So if you look at this picture here of the kind of the chassis layout, you'll notice that there is a battery on the rear of the car and all the engine and everything is there in the front of it. What this tells me is how well they packaged this car for weight distribution, which is 45-55. Now, most people are going to say should be 50-50. 55 in a rear-wheel drive bias sports car actually lends itself to having more of the grip and stuff be on the rear. Think of it like Porsche 911s, where all the weight is kind of towards the rear and not to the front, so that when you're accelerating and everything and you come around corners and it's squatting down, the power is forcing the wheels to grip and you get moving along. But the packaging is great. No, this is a hybrid powertrain, but at no point in time have I read anything about this having any type of electric form of propulsion, meaning it doesn't have 8 or 9 miles on EV mode. It may, but as of right now, after the announcement today, as this recording, they didn't mention any of that. I haven't read it anywhere. I just read that this is only solely for that electric motor in between the engine and the transmission that is helping basically fill up any gaps in torque when you're shifting through the gears. So you have this high performance transmission moving 641 horsepower at the least through a carbon fiber drive shaft to the rear. All this sounds expensive, okay? None of this sounds like it's going to be cheap. Now, one of the other things is that this is the first time that Toyota has used an all aluminum structure. So when you're looking at these pictures, like the one here when it shows like the aluminum chassis and everything that's laid out, this is basically Toyota creating something brand new for their vehicle. The last time they did something like this, I think you'd have to go back to like the LFA days where they had to make their own bespoke chassis and everything. This is the first time that they have basically put this together, but without the carbon fiber. See, the LFA was largely made out of carbon fiber, hence why the price tag was so crazy at that time, and why now they are valued and selling for an even higher price tag. This being an all aluminum structure is a little bit cheaper, but there are still elements of carbon fiber. Fenders in the doors are aluminum, although the inner doors, the door inners, those are carbon fiber. The hood and the roof is also carbon fiber, and the rear bulkhead is too. So there is carbon inside of this chassis build. So it's not just all aluminum. There is carbon pieces around where it matters. Obviously, I'm imagining that putting this all together, you're dealing with structural rigidity, right? Carbon fiber, aluminum all together, probably bonded together, structural rigidity. Continuing, front suspension, control arm type. It has a 265/35/20 Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tire, grippies, okay? Those are then aided by the rear tires, a 325/30/20 Cup Sport 2. It's a little bit of an outside, 265, 325 in the back, so very wide wheel in the back, skinnier tire up front. I did notice something in the pictures, though, that I did read an article that they talked about. In the rear of this car, because you have this giant, this 265 in the front, you got a 325 in the rear brake setup looks like a single piston sliding caliper on a carbon ceramic rotor. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Most of the time when you're seeing brakes of this nature with carbon ceramic rotors, we're thinking about like 8 pistons in the front, 6 in the back, 4. It's like a single one from the picture. That's an odd setup. I don't know what the difference would be. I'm not an engineer, and I'm sure Toyota has been testing the braking capability of this vehicle since they've started here. But in the front, there is a 6-piston caliper that's clamping down on carbon ceramic brakes. So we got carbon ceramic brakes on the Toyota. We got giant 325 wheels in the rear, 265s in the front, near 700 horsepower. We are moving up the ranks, okay? All of this stuff and these stats, high-end performance car. Now, moving along, the weight, because honestly, when we're talking about sports cars, if the weight of it is a little too heavy, then everybody's going to dismiss it as something that could have been a legend, but it was hindered by the fact that it weighs a little bit more. The targeted weight, they said, is 3,858 pounds. Now, in the grand scheme of vehicles right now, let's see how much a 2026 Porsche GT3 weighs. How much does that weigh? I have to look this up in the midst of me talking about this because I want to add some context to this. So a 2026 GT3 RS unloaded weight, unloaded, is 3,268 pounds. So it's a good amount heavier than what you would probably think the next counterpart would be. I guess if it was loaded, you're probably talking about 3,000, let's say 3,400 pounds, whatever, whatever it may be. I'm just getting a rough number right here. So this is a fair amount heavier than I would say the next counterpart would be. Now, unless this is also considered, because it said GR GT, there is more of a, I want to say Grand Touring, because that's what the GT means, or it can mean Gran Turismo. But there is more of a GT element of this vehicle than I would say a Porsche GT3. I would imagine, and this is me speculating, if Toyota is doing the GR GT and we have versions of the GR Corolla as a GRMN version, remember that was I think it was Gazoo Racing Meisters of Nürburgring, and they had the same thing for the Yaris, the same thing for the Supra, then almost certainly there's going to be some form of this version on the GR GT that would probably then start pulling more weight out of the vehicle. But as it stands now, that's the weight that they are targeting. Could it be more when it comes out? I don't know. The roof line, the roof height they talked about, because one picture that I like seeing that they showed off, and you'll see it here, they were showing an image of the vehicle from kind of like the center of gravity, where the driver of the vehicle is sitting in an area where essentially it's showing you the center of gravity is like by the knees of the driver. I am sure in the physics engineering class is going to say something about the center of gravity being that close to your knees and how it feels when you're shifting and moving the car. But the one thing I want to highlight is the fact of how much Toyota cared enough to do this. And in this picture, the driving position is very much low back, legs up high. So it's almost like an F1 car. And I'm being extreme here. It's not that extreme, but you can just tell by the seating position that this is very much driver focused, right? And it still has that comfort, because if you're looking at the interior now, let's just jump to the interior real quick because we got to discuss it. The interior looks good. Now, if I'm going to critique it, because I want to be objective, I would say that the center screen, I wish would have been more molded into a center console that kind of swept down from the dashboard back to the passengers instead of looking like the screen sitting on the dashboard like, I don't know, every other new Toyota, right? The steering wheel is good. You see little dials on it to probably change the drive modes, steering wheel controls. There's paddle shifters that are large and available, obviously, everywhere you have your hands. The Alcantara or suede interior looks really good. The Recaro seats look like those podium ones, which looks like to be Recaro's kind of go-to for these new designs of these high-performance street cars seats. You know those are hugging you well. Those are looking comfortable. I also noticed something interesting. When I was looking at the dashboard, there are 2 USB ports that are fairly prominent on the front of the dashboard. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, that's a very funky place to put 2 USB cable ports. They don't even look that good there. It's very kind of much of an eyesore when you're talking about how clean the front dash strip in the middle is looking. And then it's like, what are these 2 ports there? While I said that on my live stream, right? And if you didn't know, I did a live stream of this episode that I'm talking about when the whole thing was happening live on YouTube, so go check that out. But I said, you know what? This is probably for devices that you're going to hook up to the windshield, meaning if you're doing like the track logic or the telemetry stuff that you want to suction cup to the windshield, but you need to power it, then you want to have it closer to the dashboard like that and not in the center console like you're just charging the phone. That's what I think those are for, because there's 2 of them, and there might still be other charging ports somewhere in the center console for your regular phone. But if you want like a radar detector, if you need like a data logger or anything like that, a G meter, you plug it in right there. Everything else, though, like the red accents inside of the air vents, that is cool. The aluminum pedals look good. I see the switch gear. Some of the switch gear, you can tell, comes straight out of Toyota parts bin. If that's one thing Toyota's going to do every single time, is they're going to make sure that they're going to save some money somewhere. You might catch the same window switch from the Toyota Sienna in this thing. I'm looking at the gas door switch, looking like the Sienna switch. Okay, some of this stuff is going to be carried over. But overall, though, the whole black and red theme that Gazoo Racing is known for carries over very nicely on this interior. Nice looking seats, nice center console, nice dashboard light. I really love the steering wheel. Love how that looks. I really hope that moving forward, it would be cool if the GR cars got their own kind of bespoke steering wheel that didn't say Toyota in the center, but did maybe it said like an acronym of the car. Like this says GT in the center. It'd be cool if like the GR Corolla had GRC in the middle of it. Like, you know, obviously it's talking about the Corolla, or Supra said just Supra in the middle. You know, I mean, like how the Supra does. I mean, they already had that. But I'm talking about the next iterations of these cars. It's going to be cool if they put the name of the car right across the center of the steering wheel. I'm only saying it because the GR Corolla don't got that, and we should have had that. There's a very cool digital cluster readout that they give you. It is actually giving you some telling information. One of them, if you notice in the picture, expert mode has multiple levels. They're in expert mode, which looks like level 2 because there's 3 icons that can be lit up and 2 of them are orange. So I'm assuming that expert level is like levels of skill set, right? Because if you look over to the right in this picture, you see that traction control is off, or maybe stability control gets kicked off if you go to level 3. Also, if you're looking at the RPMs, 6,941, and we still have one more dot left. I'm guessing that the red line is somewhere, let's say around 7,000, 7,500. 7,500 might be the red line because we got like 2 more dots left, so that might be enough to cover that RPM. 7,500 RPM would make this a fairly high revving twin turbo V8, which is why it probably sounds how it sounds. You also notice that they show the tire pressure. They also show the tire temperature. They show oil pressure, oil temp, water temp. They are giving you the full gamut of information. The last one at the bottom, I think, is the temperature of the transmission fluid. It looks like there's a gear around the symbol they use for like temperature. So they're giving you all of the data you need on this cluster, including like outside temperature is 77 degrees out wherever they're driving. It's 1453 is the time, which is probably like almost 3 p.m. But the miles per hour on this screen right here shows 140 miles an hour, nearing top speed at the top of 5th gear. The reason I'm saying this is because they're saying that the top speed of this thing is going to be over 199 miles per hour. So we're going to have the Toyota GR GT, the Gazoo Racing, clocking north of 199 miles an hour. And I believe it because 140 top of 5th gear, hit another gear, 6th gear, got the entire rev range. Easily you can make it up to 200. So this is the cluster that they have, right? This is a whole digital layout. I don't know if it changes depending on mode, like if you go into another sport mode, if there's Sport Plus, if there's race mode, if there's other things that might change the graphics, but just visually, this is the information that you get. So the interior is great too. It looks nice. It looks bespoke, right? When I'm looking at this interior, it does feel special. Just from my view, just from me looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is a special car. Because you're going to need it to be special. Because we haven't discussed the price. Okay? There was no mention of the price at all when it came to this car. But I started reading and getting some information about what people were speculating that this could cost. And I'm going to read some of the speculation because honestly, when I was doing my live stream, I was like, this is a $100,000 car. I thought about that when they were testing this car and hearing it in V8 twin turbo and bespoke. But when you get more mechanical details about the car, the fact that the twin turbo V8 sits amidships, like behind the front axle, that's real sports car type stuff. Carbon ceramic brakes, completely bespoke aluminum carbon fiber chassis, dry sump oiling. I'm like, everything that I'm hearing is saying 150,000. Like that's, and I'm probably being more on the lower end because I'm still thinking that it's a Toyota. Now Toyota might think like, yeah, it's our name, but we're competing with the big dogs. So the speculation that they had is that there was no word on pricing, but none of the Toyota reps present, and this is from Car and Driver magazine, was sitting at the reveal. And they said none of the Toyota reps present scoffed. Okay, they didn't scoff at suggesting a price tag of $350,000 to $400,000. I was way off. Let me reiterate. The good people at Car and Drive were at the reveal. They stood in front of a Toyota rep. They reiterated their speculative price point of $350,000. And ne'er a scoff came their direction from that of the Toyota rep. They looked at them and said, I have no scoffs for you. I have no scoffs to give. We are not telling you the price, but that price right there does not have us guffawing or scoffing. Nothing. $350,000 to $400,000. I was joking that I could save up some money and maybe try to finagle and, work some things out down the line. $150,000, you never know how things go in life. And, you do this and the content creation takes off and I'm reviewing cars and I'm moving and I'm shaking. I'm giving me a GR GT. Nah. I'll be honest. 400 grand? 400,000. And I saw something online that said it might get up to $500,000. This looks awesome. The idea of it is awesome. Let's be frank here. You know what? I'm not even going to say that. I won't actually say that. I'm going to take back. Because I was going to say, you're 400,000. I mean, we talking about another world of vehicle. But we're talking about another world of vehicles that we're used to seeing. Porsche 911 GT3 RSs, McLaren 750S. But, and the reason I'm saying this is that if we're accepting and people are buying Ford Mustang GTDs at $300,000 to $400,000, and those are GT3 versions of that car for the road, and I've seen reviews of people driving them and saying it's worth every penny, it drives amazing, then I got to take back what I was about to say, talking about, this might be too crazy. Because honestly, it's only crazy because I don't have $400,000 and I don't have some lifestyle where $400,000 isn't enough to, make me be like, oh, ain't no big deal. $400,000. Okay, cool. Let me get 2 of those while I, check out my new boat I'm making. Okay. So there's a world where this can work, right? I know that the price is going to be the thing that everybody's going to land on when they start talking about this car. They're going to land on the speculative price and then talk about everything else they could buy. The Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, the Astons, the Porsches, the bespoke vehicles, all those things are going to be mentioned because they're going to say, I'm not buying a Toyota for $400,000. I'm not buying a Toyota for $300,000. And that's if it costs that much. Who knows? They might have been playing the cards close to their chest, just been giving them a poker face. They didn't scoff at it. They might have just been giving the poker face like, you have no idea what we're going to do. We might drop this for $110,000. Then turn this whole entire sports car world up on its head. Okay, for you to just go figure out, now what are you going to go buy? Because now we done gave you the full recipe for a price point that you didn't even expect. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be incredibly cool to see them come out and talk about this is like 130, 140. And there was a world of like a car doing stuff like that. Audi R8s, when they first came out, looked the part. Had Lamborghini DNA all up in it. Didn't cost the same. So they could very well do something like that. Now, the only reason why that I think that they could is because, yes, $350,000, $400,000, look, they're selling Mustang GTDs for that price. They're selling a lot of things for that price point. But I also understand that there's a certain level of like customer experience that I don't see any dealership network that they currently have that can match that level of customer experience, right, at that price point. Now, one of the things that I did read, they didn't talk about where this was going to be built. Not built, my bad. They didn't talk about where it's going to be sold. Like, obviously, it's coming to the U.S. When I was watching the reveal, I was like, I hope this comes to the U.S. because it would be a tragedy if it didn't. But they did say that it was possibly going to be sold to the Lexus dealerships here in the U.S. Now, imagine they're doing that so that they can move the customer experience up a notch instead of you being at the Toyota dealership talking about, where's my $300,000 GR GT you're working on next to the Tundras, okay? But I also don't think that Lexus, even in their high-end luxury platform, is even still an experience that is for a GR GT. Now, what I would be really cool, I think that you could actually circumvent all that customer experience at 300,000 if they started making dedicated Gazoo Racing outlets here in the US. Like if somebody bought into the idea and just started making franchises that only cater to the Gazoo Racing cars. That to me means that you can then kind of cater the whole thing to sports cars, motorsport. You don't even have to like lean into the luxury side of things. You could just lean into the idea of like Gazoo Racing, sports cars, they're all here. You have the budget for the GR 86 or the Celica or the MR2 when it comes, or the GR Corolla or the GR Supra or the GR GT. See, I think when you start getting into that world, then it makes a very cool curated experience. And you still could have the GR GT off in its own section with like a Atelier, where you can just have somebody come in there and say, hey, sit down, we're going to spec out your GR GT. But then if you want to go to the other cars, if you want to go see the other platforms we have, they're all there. I do think that Toyota has a business plan to introduce Gazoo Racing outlets in the United States. Stick them in major city hubs at first. LA, San Francisco, Houston area, all those type of things, New York, Florida, like stick them in the major markets and then just strictly have it catered to just that. That way you can have that whole like wall of history from the 2000 GT onward, the Group B rally cars, all the history of Gazoo Racing, and maybe even mix in TRD and all the stuff they've done up until this part, where it turns into like a museum experience for Gazoo Racing, and it also is a place where we're just selling these cars. That way, the mechanics, the technicians, the service advisors, the salespeople, you're getting enthusiasts. You're getting people that care about sports cars. They go to service your GR86. They're looking at it with a different set of eyes and ears than the person that's doing warranty work on a Toyota Sienna or Corolla over there. It's a different level of experience of people coming in. So if you're doing Gazoo Racing cars, I do think that there is a business opportunity because they got the Gazoo Racing places over in Japan, here in the US, especially when it comes to sales, service, familiarity with the vehicles, learning about them, test drives, all those things. That'd be a dope idea. But continuing on with the car, the price tag is speculative at this point. We have no idea what it's going to cost. If I'm being honest, looking at this vehicle, even from the rear of this looks exceptional. Like the rear of this car looks so good. It reminds me of the LFA. It has LFA vibes to it. But I'm not going to say I'm looking at 400,000 of car in this view. I do think that they could have picked a better color for their debut. Toyota's really been in their gray, dark color tone recently, but I do wish that on this particular launch that they would have shown off the GR GT in a much brighter color. And so even at that point, if they're speculating 500,000, I don't see 500,000. But then again, maybe I don't know what 500,000 looks like nowadays when, the car prices are so astronomical as it is. So we might be thinking about what 500,000 is, not realizing that 500,000 now is like a Temerario. It's like the base model, Lamborghini or something like that. The price points are high. But I'm still not going to say like I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh yeah, that's 500,000 right there. That not to me. It's expected to come out sooner, a little bit for 2027 model year, so you can think about this time next year, 2026, that it may start coming out, or it would be like the springtime of 2027 or the first quarter of it. And honestly, until they release the price is where you're going to determine where this is going to land. I hope it isn't this price point because, one, I feel like it would be a rinse and repeat of what they did with the LFA. Price too high, nobody cares. It takes years for it to be out, for them people to circle back around and say, hey, this is an engineering marvel, which I'm expecting the GR GT to land on the same level of engineering and performance prowess. But I hate when cars come out that are really, really exciting, and the only thing that we're going to end up talking about is the price point of it. And then the people being like, I would get one if it didn't cost as much. Or I like them, but they're not worth this price. You know what I mean? Like that becomes the language of the vehicle. So we have the power, the performance, the price point of it. They had all these cutaways too. There's a lot of pictures you see here of the cutaways of everything. One of the coolest pictures I did see was of showing the aerodynamics. I do appreciate the fact that the GR-GT does not have any large, obnoxious, and crazy looking wings and winglets and any of that for a car that looks like it is producing the right amount of downforce and extraction of hot air. If you're looking at this picture, you see the air flowing over the top, flowing to the front, flowing out the side fenders, flowing over the body of the car, going inside of intakes, coming out of the tires. Then the hot air is extracting out of the hood, so we know those vents are functional. We got hot air coming out the back through those vents, so we know that's functional as well. And all of this is done without any obnoxious wings. Now, I'm big wing gang, so don't think that I don't like a big wing, because I do. But I also realize that, like I said before, GRMN version can be the place where they decide that they're going to then launch the big wing Nürburgring Track Special Edition. Now, here's something else I did read. Now, amongst all of this happening, I was always saying this is the LFA's successor, right? But in reality, this is more of the 2000 GT successor, because the Lexus LFA is still actually coming out, and it is not this. See, I thought that they were going to give us the GR GT in like Japan, and the Lexus version of it would be what we get in America, but I was mistaken. They do say that the GR GT is going to be sold through Lexus dealerships, but it's not going to be rebadged a Lexus, I don't think. I would hope they just keep a Toyota, but for the sake of our market and how they fall victim to people being pretentious about the label and the name on the car, I could see them calling it the Lexus GT. But they did say that the Lexus LFA is still coming out, and it showed back the same concept. Though this time, they announced and confirmed this is an EV sports car. See, I thought when I saw this, I was looking at the Lexus version of the GR GT, just with maybe more hybrid technology to boost up the power. That's where like some of the 900 horsepower names are coming from. Those are a few articles I read before that said this could have up to 900 horsepower. So I was thinking that possibly the Lexus LFA version would have the same twin turbo V8, let's say 641 horsepower, but maybe a bigger battery pack, because it wasn't chasing lightweight track times. This was chasing Grand Tours. This was chasing luxury performance, right? So then you would have a bigger battery pack feeding into an electric motor that was larger, pushing out more power. Now we get up to like 900. That was my theory. I was wrong. This is now fully electric. Now, I know how we feel about fully electric vehicles of this nature. Most people are going to be like, I can't believe the LFA, the successor, is an electric car, because it's soon. Trust me. I'm sure the think pieces are already happening right now. The fact that they said this will succeed the LFA with its incredible sounding V10, with the Yamaha engineered exhaust note, it will unfortunately be compared to that. And that's not even a fair comparison, because the LFA, like I said, legendary. The electric sports car is still trying to figure out where its place is in society, whether we consider them legendary at the end of the days that they're here. So I know that hearing about the LFA now going full electric, they're going to miss the point of that the GR GT was the true successor in my eyes about the entire LFA project. The thing about the LFA was that it was the people that are with Gazoo Racing now also building the GR GT. So if you're thinking that the LFA successor is a dud because it's an electric car, I'm going to say you need to go look at the GR GT, because that is a closer resemblance of what that successor is supposed to be. It just so happens to be under Gazoo Racing and called the GT. But this is very much a good successor to the idea of the LFA. Now, because Lexus owns that name, the LFA is going to take on something new when it comes to the electric sports car, and the GR GT is going to keep it with the traditional idea of it. But twin turbo V8 with this much horsepower, we are experiencing not the same, because obviously LFA V10, how it looks and all that, but we're still experiencing a high level of sports car. And if you were listening to the live stream, they even specified how they dealt with the exhaust note. They were like, it wasn't just about how it sounds on the load. They were like, we catered how it sounds when you get your foot off the gas. Now, I joked and said pop and bang tune, but Obviously, you have that guttural sound feeling that you get from a V8. So, regardless of what we may feel about the electric LFA, I do believe that this is the successor you're asking for when it comes to the LFA with ties to the 2000 GT. And that's why they kept showing that commercial with all those vehicles driving together and then showing the GRGT in the shadow. So it makes sense. I'm just saying because I know what'll happen. LFA news is about to start circling around when they say the successor to the LFA is an electric vehicle, and every single person is going to say, we went from V10 to an EV, and I'm going to say, stop looking over there. Go look at the GRGT. We went from V10 to a V8 twin turbo with high RPM revs, with high sounds, so like, don't knock it, because it's giving us the exact same level of sauce that we were asking for from a sports car of this nature. Name another company that is putting together this type of full-on package. I guess you could argue AMG GTs because they put a lot of effort into their vehicles, but those are truly like grand tours. They're not like a sports car that you can take it to the track and, as they said there, then go to a restaurant after. Drive it daily if you want it. When it's time to get into the back roads, it really turns into the animal that it is. So it's really gonna be cool to see where they go with this. I like the design too. I don't know if I talk too much about the design. I think it looks really good. I think the front end is properly aggressive. I think it has a proper stance. It looks very wide, very low slung to the ground. I understand that the front end does give you a little bit of the family shark nose kind of experience. I know somebody's going to show a Camry and widen it out in the Photoshop, and it's going to look like the GR GT 4-door version or something like that. But this overall vehicle, to me, is one of the best looking sports cars that we've had recently. It's not aggressive. I mean, it is aggressive. It's not over the top where you're like, bro, why? Why we got the double-decker wing and triple-decker diffuser? It does have a prominent diffuser, prominent exhaust pipes, but everything does look proportional. It doesn't look, like I said, over the top. It looks like it has its place. It looks good. It's clearly performing good, and it sounds great. Like the few little exhaust note clips that they had, like they're pulling it onto stage. I was like, if it sounds like that, man, we got a winner on our hands. So the Lexus LFA is still coming. It may look like this, it may be tweaked, but this was an incredible looking concept they showed at the Monterey Car Week. This is incredible. Now, I didn't expect it to be EV, but some of that speculation, if you remember a video I did on that LFA concept, I did talk about the rear hatch having this interesting layout that looked like almost a generator. So maybe I was staring at heat extractors for the battery or fan or something, but I remember looking at the LFA concept and being like, that's an interesting thing when I'm thinking of the motor being in the front. So I might have been looking at what was already considered an EV, just we hadn't got the announcement from Toyota themselves. So in general, to wrap this up about the GRGT, if I was to think of the right price tag, the ones that are talking about 300 to 500,000, I think are pretty much, that would be far out the ballpark. 200 to 225 would be what you could probably expect. Anything under that is a bargain, depending on how it performs, right? We still don't know the numbers. We still don't know what it's doing on Nürburgring. I'm sure they've been running around there trying to break a lap record. Not that the numbers mean everything, but the numbers mean something when you start getting into this price point. So I think it looks cool. I think it looks dope. I'm a fan of Gazoo Racing. I like what they're doing, and it's cool to see them moving along and adding to it. I can't wait to see the other stuff that's more our level, stuff like the Celica, maybe the MR2, the stuff that we can afford. Okay, I want to see that. Before I wrap this up, okay, because I just wanted to really talk about the GRGT. There are a few bits of news that I did want to mention just to talk about real quick. One of those has to deal with Mercedes. So Mercedes is gearing up to build this right here. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I just wanted to talk about it from the perspective of like sales. This is considered like the baby G-Wagon. Now, the reason why I'm even talking about this right now, they don't have a name for it. It's probably going to call, I don't know, it can't be called a GLA because there's already one of those. But the only reason I'm mentioning this and I'm showing you pictures is because they are going to sell every single one of these. Hear me out and hear me clear. They are going to sell every single baby G-Wagon that they can build. These things is moving off the lots like unlimited hotcakes. Okay, they're moving off the lot like buy one, get one at the sushi spot. Okay, they're selling every one of these things. Okay, now I will say this. If you have a true G-Wagon, because that's what's going to happen, right? We're going to have a classism thing. You got a baby G, I got the real G. Okay, you can't catch me in I'm sure the lyrics from songs is going to be like, yo, you put your baby mom in the baby G, you put my wife in the grown woman G. I don't know, I'm not a rapper. But you know it's coming. You know it's coming. Now, the reason I'm saying all that is because they're going to sell all these like hotcakes, and then eventually the value of the G-Wagon, which is where it sits very high in the hierarchy of like SUVs, is going to get diminished because if the baby one is looking like this and people are like, oh, that's cute, that's cool, and it's priced for everybody else and not these $100,000 to $180,000 AMG ones and regular ones, then yeah, your price point is going to be diminished. And this is looking so much like a smaller one. It's not like there are other brands that have tried to make like smaller versions of like a bigger car and hopefully to entice you to get your money up and get to the real deal. Range Rover Evoque, that was trash. Okay, the Range Rover Evoque was like, what? Explain to me why you're here if you're not getting the Rover. They were hoping that you get the Evoque and maybe get your money up or get your whatever career course you're taking and then eventually make your way up to the Range Rover. But a lot of people never made it there. They just finished those payments, put that thing to the side and went off and got them a Honda Pilot as they should have did the first time. This G-Wagon could end up being like that, the baby version. The only reason why I say it probably won't is because Mercedes is doing their due diligence from this camouflage thing to make this really look like a scrunched down small baby G-Wagon. And that's all anybody cares about, is it for to look like that. I don't know any of the stats or speculation if it's going to be an electric one only, but I'm just saying if this looks like how it's going to be here without the camouflage, every one of these is out the door. Every one of them out the window. Now, getting on to some other quick news. That was just one little funny thing I wanted to talk about and see. There was some other news to speak about, and that was from yours truly. I'm going to grab some real quick. Hold on. If you hear me shaking some paper. If you're looking at the video, you see me shaking some little paper in front of you. This is actually a Monroney. Now you're probably looking at that like, why you got a window sticker in the screen? Would you buy a new car? No, I did not buy a new car. Don't got money for that. Okay. What I have in front of me is the Monroney window sticker from my first press car. I want you to, first of all, round of applause. Okay. This is monumental. Now, I know in the grand scheme of everybody else that has done more car content than I have, it has more followers on TikTok and has done more things on Instagram, more things on YouTube, they might think, or you might feel like, my bad, you might feel like that's not that big of a deal, CarQuicks. Let me tell you something. Over here, it's brand new. This is a whole new world, like Aladdin, okay? Show Jasmine. This is the land of milk and honey over here, okay? This is where the leaves and the trees are green, there's water, like Littlefoot was trying to find a land before time, okay? That's where I'm at right now because I have been working myself to this point. Not that I'm done. I'm just saying this was a milestone for me because I've been working my slow trod to the point of being able to be included in the press vehicle run for any vehicle. I didn't care what it was. I was like, I just want to be included. And my work is like just beginning. Like this milestone to me felt like I hit the summit. I was like, oh man, I finally got a press car. Like, I'm moving the direction I said I would do when I started this podcast, when I started doing videos on the GR Corolla, when I gotten sponsored parts for the car, and we got to talk about that too. I kept moving this direction because I said I want to do it all. And that's probably one of the things where sometimes I get worried that I'm trying to do too much. Most people do car reviews in a podcast. Most people just do short form car content and car review stuff. I'm over here trying to do, and not trying, I'm doing it. I'm just saying, for lack of a better term, I'm trying to do a GR Corolla stuff, car build, JDM type of flavor over there. I'm over here trying to do car reviews like some of the biggest names I follow, like Forest Reviews, like this kid, I forgot his name, the young guy, WTE.3. He does a bunch of stuff on TikTok, really cool videos. I'm trying to do like the big dogs and that car review stuff. I'm trying to do podcasting like the podcast I listen to, like Matt Farron, Smoking Tires, Spice Car Radio, things like that. I'm trying to do a car podcast in that form, but with my own flair from the other podcasts I listen to. I listen to a variety of them. Joe Budden podcast. I listen to, NPR Radio. I listen to Decipher, Decoder from the Verge. I listen to a variety of things to get some element of things that I like in each one of those podcasts to bring here. So when I'm thinking about all the stuff I'm trying to do and then piece together to do car reviews and car builds and vlogging at car events like SEMA and car shows and then circling back to this here, I'm like, I'm doing not even a trifecta. I'm trying to pull off a hexagon. Okay, I'm trying to pull off multiple sides, but it's actually who I am. So even though I'm saying all this, this is a part of who I've been for many years. It always encompasses the entirety of these things. At no point do I ever feel uncomfortable doing that. I can do the formal podcast like this. I could do the informal part install on the car and talk to you about what I'm doing and review it on the street. I can then go into the car show and do the vlog style of showing you the cars and talking about it. I then can sit in front of a car and then give you the informative way of how I entertain and do the car review for that car there. And I'm only just practicing. Most of the reviews I have on the channel now is me practicing different angles and techniques and getting better and trying to improve. A lot of it is just hearing the video, seeing the mistakes, learning the inflection, learning how to pick up your pace, learning how to just move things along in a way, understanding how to record shorts better, learning how to do the long form. Like there's a system here. So my first vehicle is a Toyota Tundra. I got it from the Toyota people. I've been talking to them for a while. I've met them. They sent me a 2026. What is this model? Hold on. I'm saying all that. I don't know the model offhand. It is a limited crew cab max with the tow package. First of all, this is the first day I got it. I literally just took the kids for a ride in it to Chick-fil-A because they were hungry and I was busy recording prior to this. And I was like, fine, we can go over there and get it real quick this one time because it's not like we're trying to go there all the time. And I was like, let's jump in the truck. And they're all excited. They're like, you bought it? You bought a truck? And I'm like, no, not at all. GR Corolla right out there, buddy. I was like, this is a review thing, but it was a cool way to explain to them because my oldest knows how long I've been, not even how long, he knows the work I've been doing to do this. He's like, this is your first one, so they're going to send you more. I said, hopefully. We're going to do this one the proper way, and we're going to get some more later. We're going to get some more after that, and we're going to get some more after that. And I'm going to get into the mix. So this is here. I am, now the pressure's on, right? Like you make it through the door, they hand it to you, and they're like, all right, do it. Show us what you said you're going to do. Not that I haven't done reviews on cars, but this is the first time I have it for a length of time that I can decide how to do it the way I want to do it. So I have an idea, and I'll throw it out there for y'all. So in case you're interested, and if you see this pop up, you understand why it's happening. There has been an idea in my head of figuring out a way to do another level of content that is a paid tier, okay? And it's not something that you have to do. It's not even something that's going to have the main stuff on there. It's just something extra that if anybody is following my CarQuicks brand and what I do once more, I wanted to figure out something that, I don't know if I'm going to put it on the YouTube memberships or Patreon. I wanted to do something that was more than just what I'm normally giving out. right? Because that stuff to me should live on YouTube. It should live the way I've been giving it out this entire time. This has to be something different and extra. And the idea I had in my head, this is the first one that I'm going to implement. And that is more of like a day in the life. So normally when you have these press cars, you have them for a set amount of days. I'm going to shoot a video every day that I have it. Today was the first day I already did that. I went out there as like a day one. And it's honestly, it's going to be like quick conversation about the vehicle. It might be a shot of me loading it up with groceries and I'm sitting on the back of it and just talking about the size of it as the cargo capacity of what I've come to learn as the days went on. And then it'd be day 3 and I'm gonna say like, hey, this is what I discovered. This is how I feel about it more. Day 4, and it's gonna be a very personal experience. It won't be necessarily the scripted or let's talk about these points in this section. Let's talk about this engine. Let's talk about the interior. It's gonna be more of an organic, natural conversation when I'm talking to you and saying, hey, this is day 4. It might be shots of me driving. I'll be like, hey man, day 4, this is a huge truck. I'll tell you that. But one of the things I noticed is like, it has this cool feature and you do this. And not something that's formal, just informal. But I want it to be like this kind of vlog throughout the days. It's like 7 days with Tundra. Where you get to see my real time experience with the truck or with the car every single day that I have it. And then in the end, you'll see the full kind of polished review video on YouTube. Then I'm going to come here on the podcast and talk more about it with a special episode on the podcast of the vehicle to get more into those details, to talk more about some fine-tuned things, right? Like this truck has a tow package. Now, I can't tow anything. I have nothing to tow, but I can talk about what it can do as far as the towing side, but it may not make all of that into the review because the review will come from the perspective of like, how do I think about it as a truck, as a Tundra? What do you think about it? I'm going to put in that it has a towing thing, but I'm not actually comparing this towing capability because I don't have the means to do that. But I have the means to tell you about how the truck is as a truck and as a daily driver. And as something that maybe I throw a few things in the bed to try to see what it can haul and things like that. But then the podcast episode, I can get more into the weeds of like the intricate details. And it may not be that long, like a 30-minute episode of me talking about, let me tell you the things that you didn't hear from me. Let me show you some of the things that I think could be improved upon maybe, or maybe some things that I ask or question or just anything like that. Podcast episode like that. Will that be behind a paywall? I don't know yet. I may also just add that as content into the channel. But if I was to add that with the day in life kind of vlog style video I want to do, this is kind of like an all-around package. It's going to start slow. This will be the first one. My goal and what I'm going to reach to, I'm not even saying hopefully because I've spoken, and not saying spoken to an existence, like I didn't do anything to get here. What I'm saying is I'm talking only positive of where I'm going to go. We are going to get more press cars, and every time I get one, and the more consistent I do and get them, then I'll keep doing more and more of those videos. So that kind of like paywall content grows and grows. In the beginning, there will only be this first one. And then after that, I'm going to do the next one, the next one, the next one. And it's a lot of work, but I know I can do it. And I would love to do it because I like to do this. So none of this is work to me. So the Tundra is here. I'm excited to do that. And there's some more news. GR Corolla updates. Something that I did and I talked about that I was going to do at SEMA worked. So remember many podcasts ago, I said, I'm going to go to SEMA and I'm going to present something to a company because I want to run their stuff and I'm going to come at them at an angle that hasn't been done, and it worked. That's with Koenig wheels. Now, I'm not going to say everything is finalized now because there is a cost on my end. Everything, this is not, I'm never shooting for just free. I never shoot for that. I shoot for partnership and discount and deal, and I want to do stuff for you because I like the company and I like a set of wheels. I had made a pitch to them, like a sponsorship pitch that I basically created that was like a physical pitch. They had like postcards, like 5 of them in a box with like a small little GR car that I was going to hand to them at SEMA. They weren't at SEMA because they didn't have a booth there this year. So I found their address and shipped it directly to the president of the company. They got to email me back in the first line. They said something of the nature of, this was one of the best ways to get your proposal in front of us. I'm not telling you my full sauce. Okay, you're going to have to think on your own because I was I was outside the box with a box, if that makes any sense. Like I'm patting myself on the back. Sometimes my creative brain kicks into a way that I'm like, even my wife, she was like, that is an extremely good way. Like that's you're really you're really throwing out the best right there. And it came back. And it came back in a very positive way. And it just proves, again, what I'm doing is working the direction I want it to go. Actually, sometimes I think about this, I get teary-eyed because it's a journey that I just look forward to. So for 2026, there is a lot more coming. I am now going to be a part of the Midwest Automotive Media Association. I am moving through another association. I am planning to be at the Chicago Auto Show in February. Planning to be down at the media floor on both days, shooting from the media floor. I plan to get to some other car shows. I plan to be at press events. It's happening, okay? But until then, what I want you to do is to do as you wish and do as you may. Make sure you check in again to the podcast. Make sure you check into the Instagram because things are going to start switching and turning. There's going to be a lot more updates. The Tundra is going to be all over the Instagram, okay? So you might think I switched the GR Corolla to a Tundra for the next few days because guess what? That's what I'm all about right now. I'm neck deep in Tundra. But as I said again, do as you wish, do as you may. Thanks for joining me for the CarQuicks podcast. I will see y'all around. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Be back here next week, okay? Because we got a lot to talk about.